2023-24 show. I'm host Adrianne Hamilton Butler, and it is a beautiful first day of fall, also known as candy corn season. And I know that's not everybody's favorite, but it sure is mine. Welcome again to Onward. We are on WCEG, the Worldwide Community Empowerment Group. You can follow our show on YouTube. You can subscribe at WCEG Network. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, and LinkedIn at the WCEG Network. Onward is a show that's dedicated to authentic conversations about things that happen in our life, things that are unwelcome, uncertain, and unwanted. And it really is about how do we move forward in our own unique way? What relationships, our faith, what is it that gets us through the valleys of life, the valleys that happen to everyone? And so that's what our show is dedicated to. And today we're going to talk about being fearless, about navigating life's valleys. But before we begin and I introduce our amazing guests, I just want to say that the opinions expressed today are those of the host and guests and not of WCEG. So welcome Ray Smith and Sheila Meadows. These are very good friends of mine. And we were just talking a little bit earlier about how long we've known each other, and we've come to the realization that it's been Ray, since 1986.
Exactly, yes.
That's a long time. 30 plus years that we've known each other. And, we may not always see each other all the time, but we're connected in a very real way. And I'm so grateful to have you both in my life. And I'm very grateful that you both decided to accept the invitation to come on today. So thank you. So Sheila and I actually went to college together, North Carolina A&T. So shout out. Sheila is an accomplished publisher with Our Rainbow Books, which is based here in Atlanta. Sheila, tell us a little bit more about Our Rainbow Books.
Well, I actually started as a book club for African American children back in 2000. And it kind of transitioned into a publisher. We publish children's books, multicultural children's books, mainly African American children's books. And the goal of Our Rainbow Press is just to make sure that we get books in children's hands that look like them. I work with a lot of nonprofits, a lot of different groups and entities here in Atlanta and nationally. We work with the Mayor's Summer Reading Club. We actually publish books with them. We work with the Atlanta Speech School, which is a group that actually creates curriculum. And so we publish a lot of their books. Currently, we're working on a book for Grady Hospital, Grady Babies, for people in Atlanta area that understands and knows a little bit about Grady Babies. We're publishing a book. We're actually doing 5 books for them. And the first book will come out in October. And we're really, really excited about that process and that particular project.
That's awesome. And Sheila, to your point about books that represent children of color, I think that's great, because so much we talk about the literacy rate, especially among African Americans. And I think to your point, it's good for our children to be able to have books that represent them and show their lives. I think that allows them to be more interested in reading and will hopefully increase the literacy rate among our children. So thank you for that work. Ray is the VP of HR for the Arbinger Institute, and she is a published author. She had a story published in the Women of Courage Volume 4. Ray, tell us a little bit about the Women of Courage series.
Sure, absolutely. So it's a series all about just uplifting and empowering women. We all tell stories of different things that sometimes multiple things that we've overcome, but the challenges that have impacted us specifically as women. But occasionally there's a few men thrown in there as well. And it's really just about letting people know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. You know, we try to be very transparent in everything that's happened to us, but most importantly, we say how we got to the other side of it. So it was quite an honor to be featured in that.
I love what you said about light at the end of the tunnel, because you know, when we're going through things, you don't see that light a lot of times. You know, it seems like it's going to be that way for forever. And a lot of times we can get anxious, depressed, because we just see that there's no way out. But I know for the two of you that you both experienced things over the past year, and here you are looking beautiful and smiling. But I know during those times it was difficult. And so we're going to be talking about that a little bit. But before we get into the challenges, I want to ask you both about the things in your lives, those personal things, those personal achievements that you've had that you're most proud of. It could be about your children, your own accomplishments. But Sheila, I'll start with you.
Well, I really just have so much to be thankful for. You both know I have 3 grown daughters, Anthony and I, and I was a stay-at-home mom for almost 20 years, along with joining the publishing company. And they're probably some of my greatest joys and achievements, if I can even call it that. But I'm just very excited and very proud to be a mom of them. I have 2 of them that are married, and the youngest one just got engaged about a month ago, if it's even been that long. So I'm just excited about who they are, the things that they're accomplishing. And I have a grandchild that I'm very excited about. So
tell us a little bit about your grandson.
He'll be a year in November. So we're getting close to celebrating his 1-year birthday. But he's just such a joy, and he's such a happy baby. And through all the things that I'll share with you guys in this podcast, he has really been a light to help me through and help us all through a lot of it, just with his genuine smiles and laughter.
Exactly.
You know?
I love it. And Ray, what about you?
Oh, geez, I have so much that I'm just proud and thankful of. I think number one is, I have 2 sons, one by birth and one is a bonus son. And I'm just super proud of the relationship that I was able to establish early on with my bonus son, and the relationship I continue with my birth son as well.
Yes.
He just recently moved from Arizona to Tennessee, which has been amazing. He comes by once a week. And then the relationship that my husband and I have had has been just a unique relationship, and I just love it. He's my best friend. I met him actually when I was 9 years old, and
Wow.
our lives went in completely separate directions. We
Yeah.
dated my senior year of high school, and we broke up and then got back together years later. And it has been just an amazing journey with each other. And then the relationship I have with my mom, who continues to be my best friend, and the relationship my father and I have been able to establish with each other, because early on in life we kind of butted heads a bit, and now we're just really good friends now, and we throw things off of each other and ask for advice. So that's been really nice.
Yeah, and I love how you both talked about your family, because family really helps us to get through a lot of the things that occur in our lives. And if we didn't have those strong relationships, a lot of times we would feel very much alone. And I'm realizing that in this day and age, it's kind of funny how we have technology and we thought it would bring us all together. But really what it's done is it's kind of polarized us and really kind of torn us apart. But it's family that grounds us and keeps us rooted and keeps us feeling as though we're connected. And we have that built-in sense of community. So Sheila, in talking about family, I know that this year was kind of a difficult one for you, especially from a family perspective, because there was loss that you experienced this year. Tell us about that as we're talking about living fearlessly, especially in the face of loss.
Mm. Yeah, this last year has been really challenging. It actually started with an injury that that happened in an establishment. And then I promise you, it just went downhill from there. My sister, my older sister, became ill, and she died Christmas morning, which was 2 days after her birthday. And that was just really tough because she didn't want to die and we didn't want her to die. And then my mom died a month later from that, 4 days after her birthday. And feeling overwhelmed is putting it minor, but and then I had a couple surgeries. And then my younger sister had to have a transplant. And that's not all of it. It just had been so many things that were happening at one time. It was overwhelming to the point that all I could really do was just focus on the task at hand. And I really think that I'm at the point now where I'm starting to grieve. I didn't allow myself to grieve during that time. And I had such a phenomenal, family support and friend support and church members that supported me through that process. But it was extremely difficult. It was, again, it's just something that I'm still dealing with. But one of the things that happened along the way was God shared with me after I had a major surgery, cancer scare, that during this time, that my Job experience was over. And I thought, what? My Job experience is over? I didn't know I was going through a Job experience.
Right.
So I actually went back and it took me about a week to read through the book of Job. And there was so much in there. And there was so much that I learned in there. Not really fully ready to unpack and share with everything that I learned during that. But as things continued to happen, it was a source from God to remind me that, no, this is already over. And you're going to have to believe me and trust me in this process, that your Job experience is over and that there's nothing but good and blessings and things yet to come. And so that has continued to sustain me through this process is believing the word that God shared with me. And then Anthony, my husband, was just phenomenal. But there's times when I couldn't pray. There was times I didn't want to pray. And he would, just take care of that. So he would pray for us a couple at night, that we normally do. We would swap off. It's your time to pray tonight. It's my time to pray tonight. And so let's just say I handed all over to him, and he did a phenomenal job in taking us through that process. And then I'll share in a little bit kind of some of the things that my daughters helped me through in that process.
So Sheila, first of all, I want to say again that I'm really sorry for the losses that you experienced in your life. And to have two so close together, for a lot of people, as you said, would be very overwhelming. And the one thing I know about you is that you have such a beautiful, bright spirit. And I noticed as you were going through your time of grief that you kept that beautiful, bright spirit. And so I think that's a testimony to your faith, that you were able to stay strong, and also a testimony to the love of your family. Because having that keeps us centered, especially when we have people who are praying with us and for us. Ray, talk a little bit about what you experienced this year as well. I'm just sitting here because I'm thinking how long we've known each other, and then to realize that there was this extreme loss for all of us this year, and how we're sitting here now being able to have this conversation. Ray, share a little bit about what happened with you this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So this year has it's been about rebuilding kind of my life. About 2 years ago, I had gone, a little over 2 years ago, I went to the emergency room, I had something going on. They did a scan. They sent me to another specialist, and that specialist noticed something in my liver. But when they called me, I was in the middle of moving to Tennessee, and I said, "I'm
Yeah.
actually moving right today." And they said, "Well,
Yes.
just get it checked out. You know, when you get to Tennessee." And Sheila and Adrianne know me quite well. I got very involved in work and didn't get it checked, right? And so then when I did get in with the doctor, several doctors, they found something in my liver, they found something in my lungs, and they found something in my breast. And we started with the breast and kind of drilling down what that was, and figured that situation out, and then moved on to the liver. Over the course of 9 months, I had several surgical procedures, about 5 surgical procedures, and really worked in partnership with doctors to figure out what was going on. Over that time, I learned that we as women have to use our voice. You know, just because the doctor tells us, okay, this is what I think it is, you're good, that other stuff that you're worried about, it's going to go away. I felt something inside of me that was like, this is not going away. This is getting worse. I'm telling you what I'm feeling.
Right.
And so when I wasn't getting the information I needed, then I went to another specialist out of town, and they were able to diagnose me so quickly.
Right.
And they said, okay, these are all the issues that you have. Here's how we're going to work through it. And you are going to be here for years. Don't believe the stuff that you're reading on the internet. You are going to be here. We've caught it early, and we are going to help you through this. And so during the course of that time, went through tons of trials and all these kind of different medication cocktails. I thank goodness for my husband, there were times I couldn't get out of bed. There were times I could barely move. And he just kept me motivated. He kept a very positive mindset for me and just helped me through everything. I didn't want to share with people because at the time, you know, when you're going through this diagnosis, people want to know what's wrong and what's the prognosis. And I don't even know, right? And I'm also not one to bring any negativity to people. I want to be positive and stuff. But when I did release the information to certain people, people just rallied around me. You know, they didn't say, well, when are you going to get better? You know, they just sent me a text message to say, hey, you know, I hope you feel better. Some girlfriends drove up from Atlanta just to have lunch with me, right? And then Adrianne organized this whole conference call with Sheila and myself, and we just kind of talked through some things. So people have shown up in all kinds of different ways for me. My mom actually stayed with us for 2 months because I couldn't do anything for myself, and my husband had to go to work. And so over the course of this year, I've been able to get off of a walker. I've been able to get off of a cane. I still need wheelchair help for airports just because of long airports, but I'm making progress. I'm going to physical therapy, and things are just looking really great. And so I just keep a positive mindset and just keep going with what I'm doing and tell my story to people. I'm involved in medical trials because I don't want anybody else to go through it. I want them to find cures for all kinds of things. And if that can be my legacy, I'm happy with that.
And I thank you for that, Ray. And I'm so glad that you're on the other side of this.
Yeah.
Because I know it happened unexpectedly. It was scary. And you said something that I think a lot of people go through when things happen like this. You actually retreat a little bit. Because sometimes the feedback you get might not be helpful. It might make you feel worse. And you don't have all the answers to give to others. And you really have to conserve that energy and strength and peace to help you get over what it is that you're going through at the time. But Sheila, I want to go back to you about your Job experience. It's so funny because I dedicated, like you, I dedicated some time to reading that book. And what stood out to me is how Job's friends responded.
Mhm.
Because a lot of times when things happen, you and Ray both talked about friends rallying around you and supporting you. But sometimes our friends don't know how to react or how to respond. And so sometimes they will say and do things that really aren't helpful
Mhm.
and can make you feel worse. And I saw that a lot with Job, that instead of his friends praying for him and being supportive, it was almost as if they were blaming, not almost, they were blaming him
Mhm.
for his own situation. But I want to talk about how your friends were supportive. What were some of the things that they did to make you feel that you were loved, that they cared about you? I know, Ray, you talked about friends driving up for lunch to see you. And I know that Sheila, you talked about your family praying with you, but can you share specific things that people said or did that really touched you and gave you confidence that you were not alone in this?
My gosh, I'm so blessed. I have so many different groups of friends and family, and I'm trying not to cry. Okay, but the Atlanta crew, I am just so blessed. We have a phenomenal. My family and I have a phenomenal network of people that have just been there all the way. They've cooked for our family. They've just been here literally to hold my hand and to hold our hands through this process. They sent flowers. It's just unbelievable. And then I have just family in North Carolina. So I grew up in a small town in North Carolina where my family and the church that I grew up in, they're the leaders in that church. My brother is a deacon in the church, and my sister-in-law is a deaconess, and my cousin is, runs the place. So, and my mom has 4 sisters and just strong pillars of the community. They're business owners and just phenomenal women. And so they were our guidance. So we went to them in everything. We went to our elders to ask, what should we do? How should we do it? We want your approval. This is what we're thinking. And they really just led us through the whole process. They were friends from high school. The girl's godmother, Sheila Howell Flowers, was just phenomenal. And being there and sending food from the Washington, D.C. area, having people deliver it, to homes of my siblings in the area, and just really being there physically. So to say that support was just at a God level, I just can't say it enough. And I'm sure I'm missing someone. And I hate that, because at the second funeral, I did a thank you and I named some names, and I walked away still feeling like I'd forgotten someone, because the community and everybody there was just so strong and just, taking care of us in a way that was just really unbelievable. But one of the connections that I made to Job and Job's story, you remember how when you're reading Job and it shares how the friends are coming to him, and seriously, there must be something you've done that causes to go through, for you guys to go through that. The one thing that, and I don't know how to say this positively, but the one thing I didn't really want to hear anymore was, it's it's God's way. It's I can't even think of the words that I had heard, and I had gotten to a point because I really wasn't digesting the information well. And again, as I said earlier, really not going through the grieving process that one typically goes through. There was a lot of different emotions going on. So I got to a point I really didn't want to hear one more, it's God's way of doing it, or that may be true, but it was just hard to hear. And God just really had to help me through that process. And I know that the people that said it to us meant well.
Yes.
And I know that I have said that, in some form of a way. And so, as Job was going through that part of it, the words were different, that went at Job versus that came to me. But I walked away feeling like that's not the God I serve. There's no way that God is in the midst of this. And it's too much. It's too much to bear. And so God had to share some things with me personally to help me get through that. And that's not what I'm fully ready to unpack here, but God is good. And just like God told Job at the end, where were you when I set the foundations of the world? And that, everything in this world belongs to him, God. And my sister and my mom belong to him. And that was something I had to learn through this process. So now I just thank God for the wonderful people, you and James, and just, so many people that were there for us praying. And Ray, as you probably know, it didn't show up in social media because I just didn't want to share it that way. But I'm grateful for the support and the support system that God provided us and me and my family.
Thank you for sharing that, Sheila. And, you mentioned something, and that is, when we're going through these valleys of life, even when we're surrounded by people, we sometimes feel alone. Because we have to sort out our own feelings, our feelings of fear, our feelings of when will this end? And Ray, I want to ask you, at what point in time did that kind of fear kind of just overcome you? Because it does happen it's a short time, but it's a time when you're just crying out and nobody knows those times. Nobody sees that because you're doing it in your room, in your home. Ray, share that for a moment of what did that feel like for you, but then what turned it around? Because here you are today. So take us to what was the depth and how did you come up out of that?
Sure. Gosh, that's a powerful question, right? So I think for me, it was, I just completed surgery number 4. And I was, every one that I went through made me feel worse, right? And so I got to surgery number 4 and I was like, this is no better. I feel like I am dying and just nobody wants to tell me that I'm gonna die, right? And then I'm looking up the one that they had diagnosed me with. I'm looking up that on the internet and it doesn't have anything good in it. It's just like, you got a countdown to your life and that's it. And I was miserable. And then I'm looking at this next surgery that I might have and thinking, why? If it's not going to get any better, what's the point of it, right? And at the time we were still in our temporary house while we were looking for our permanent location. And I was also thinking, well, why look for a permanent location? What's the point? I'm not going to be here. So, and if I am, can I even get up out of bed? Just for what? And I was still trying to do work and just feeling like I was failing at everything. I was grouchy, which is, you guys know me, that's not me.
Right.
And, I think I was snapping at my husband, which isn't me. I know I was snapping at my mom, who was just trying to care for me, but I was in constant pain and just sick. And so the thing that kind of turned it, one of the things that turned it around for me is my grandmother, she just recently passed, one of my grandmothers. And when she found out I was sick, because I hadn't shared it with anybody, but I wasn't able to be there for a birthday for her that she'd been planning for over a year. So I had to tell her, this is why I'm not going to be here. All right, everybody was supposed to be wearing red shoes for her birthday, and I picked out mine a year ago. And I said, I'm not going to be able to get on a plane. My lungs can't handle it, and I'm sorry. And she told me, little girl, don't worry about it. What's going on? So I told her. After that, she called me every week just to find out, where are we? What's going on? What plans are you making? And she said, don't you stop making plans. You continue making plans. You buy that house. If you need a new job, you look for a new job. We don't stop making plans. And she was diagnosed with a degenerative spine condition. And she's like, look at me. I'm not supposed to be walking. There I am on my walker. Doctors don't know. We're not going to stop making plans. You tell me each time I call you, I want to know what plan's next. And so that's really how I got through it. We did our house shopping. I masked up. I couldn't walk really well, so my husband guided me. And we did what we did, and we just kept making plans. And I didn't tell anybody, hey, there's a time clock to my life. And now there isn't a time clock to my life, right? But it was all about just continuing to make plans and living your best life. And that's just what I continue to do and will continue to do. And just trying to be kind to other people and just think outside of myself on a regular basis and reach out to people and impact lives where I can.
I love that. And I love that wisdom that your grandmother had. And I want to just sit with a couple of things that you said. One is to keep making plans, to keep having hope, because Sheila, losing those that we love so much, our parents, our siblings, sometimes you feel like you just want life to just stop at that moment, because you don't know how to move forward from that loss. But as you said, you have 3 daughters, you have a grandson. And so I know that you wanted to keep moving forward because you have so much beautiful life surrounding you. What was it about your family, about your grandson, that made you say, this is really, really hard, but I want to continue to wake up and smile and love and hug and encourage my daughters, my grandson? What was it inside of you that allowed you to do that, to keep planning and hoping?
It was just my relationship with God. The times in the past when he shared things with me, I believed him and I stood on his word. And, as I went through all the loss and all of the things that were happening, my surgeries and so forth, I had to figure out how to come back to the word and how to stand on the word. And I had 3 wonderful women that would remind me along the way about things that I shared with them as they were going through their life, challenges and growing up and so forth. So it was extremely special to hear them come back to me and repeat some of the things I had shared with them from a
Yes.
spiritual standpoint.
Yes.
It's interesting in so many different ways. One, it said they heard me all those years ago, and that they believed it. So, watching their spiritual growth during that time was just unbelievable. I remember Avia, my oldest daughter, being in the hospital with my sister as we were going through a transplant situation. And in one particular story, I was in the room with my sister, and for some reason I got agitated because I didn't have a physical seat. She's intensive care and I didn't have a seat. And so I left out the room, and and while I was out of the room, the doctors came and told her that she was being taken off of the transplant list because her body couldn't handle a transplant. And so I walked around after I heard that, just being upset that I wasn't able to be in the room with her, to hold her hand through that process while she heard such horrible news. And God shared with me in that moment that you didn't need to be in the room and at that table at that moment, because you had already sat at my table, my God table. And I told you the truth. And the truth was that your Job experience is over. And that includes what's happening with your sister. And at the time, Avia, my oldest one, had heard her sermon, that really, right after I said that, the next day or so, she heard the sermon that spoke those same kinds of words. And so she was able to come back, my daughter, and share with all of us and with the family what that sermon was. And it just grew us in strength, and we had to know that we had to stand on the truth of God's word and not necessarily what man was telling us. And that was hard in that moment. That was so hard. Because she was, she was dying. So to be able to stand on the word, listening to my girls bring back to me the word, it was a powerful moment. We had to choose, who are we going to believe? And I had to make a decision that I was going to believe God in this moment, because I couldn't lose anybody else. And he came through. He really came.
Thank you for sharing that, Sheila. I appreciate that. And so, Ray, we talked about your grandma, and so we just talked about the one thing that is continuing with our plans and having hope. But the other thing is thinking about others. And I really want to touch on that for the last few moments that we have together. Because when we're going through things, it's really easy to turn everything inward and to focus on what it is that we're going through and the pain that we have. But in my life, and I'm sure in yours, you've noticed that people who have overcome and navigated valleys have been people who have been able to turn that pain outward and to give and to love and to share what they've experienced. And so, Ray, I'll start with you. How did you take your experience and turn it outward to be able to help other people, even when you were going through so much pain and uncertainty in your life?
So I've had some nice platforms to be able to do that. I have somebody who's become a dear friend who she had a platform at the hospital that I was in. She had a national platform in the hospital And she would invite different speakers to this. And so she asked me if I would speak on some issues with women in health, right?
Yes.
And so I was always extremely passionate about women using their voice,
Yes.
but I've become even more passionate about it when it comes to health and healthcare, and especially minority women, because too often we say, this is what we feel, and it's like, okay, we'll take a pill and go home, right? We saw this in COVID, and we saw the impact, the monumental impact that it had for certain communities.
Yes.
And so she invited me to that. So I was able to use that as a platform. Anytime, it seems like oftentimes I cross paths with different people who are going through things, and I don't know why, but I just cross paths with people, right?
Yes.
And so people feel comfortable speaking to me just randomly, right? And so I listen. And when I listen, I impart whatever wisdom I can. It's part of the reason I got into human resources in the first place, because I can impact just broader groups of people in human resources. People do tend to come to you with problems and just want to talk through how you can fix them with people. I had a new appreciation for wellness plans within companies as well, right? And so I use that information that I've gained to try to help other people within the company and really explain the importance of wellness. So every single thing that I've done in my life, I can use either on a personal level or on a business level to just help impact people's lives in the best, most positive way possible. So that's how I use just everything that's been going on with me, and will continue to use anything that goes on with me.
Oh, I love that. And I especially like what you said about health and women of color, because we tend to lean on being strong so that we can manage things for everyone. And so we internalize things so much. And I think sometimes that's to our detriment, because it really doesn't make us stronger. What it does is it increases our burden.
Yes.
And so Sheila, you know, when you were going, and you're still going through the grieving process, how are you able to turn that outward and to help others? Are there others that have been grieving where you've been able to now take what you experienced and share with them, especially women of color, where perhaps they can lighten their load and not feel that they have to carry that burden of pain on their own?
Yeah. I guess just like Ray, I mean, there have been people that have crossed my path that I'm able to share my journey with. I'm still in that process where I am just, writing my story. And that's therapeutic in a way. And I know that God is going to use that to, reach the people that He wants me to reach. But it's, it's a challenge. And I think it's God's way for us to, reach out and share our testimonies with others as we're going through things. You want to wait until it's over and you have all the answers. You can share. But that's not how it is. And so sometimes I'm sharing things, as I'm still grieving or going through the pain of it. So He has just used really some really just unique opportunities to share, to hug someone, to let them know that I hear them and that I understand. And, a lot of it has just been, individual at this point. But I'm looking forward to finding out what it is He's going to have me to do with this testimony and this journey, because I know He's going to use it to impact, people and women of color. And, one of the things I get the opportunity to do is I work with a group that works with parents, new parents.
Yes.
And so I get to share in those sessions things that I've learned, things that I've done wrong. I get a really big kick out of those things. And in my personal journey, as I'm sharing with them things to do with their families and their, their new children, et cetera. So I haven't really shared this part of my life with them yet, but I'm looking forward to it. And in a way that's meaningful to them.
Yeah, I think both of you know, and a lot of people know, that I work in the homelessness space. And a lot of the families and people that we serve have had trauma in their lives. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times people will say, I don't understand why able-bodied people are homeless. Mm-hmm. They'll say, oh, perhaps they're lazy, perhaps they don't care. But what people don't realize is that when you go through things in your life, healing takes time. Mm-hmm. And we all heal differently. And so a lot of times when you're going through the healing process, you don't think about getting a job, or you don't think about waking up in the morning and taking care of your children. You're really just trying to preserve everything that you have within you just to make it through another day. And I especially see that with women of color. If there was anything that either of you could say to people who are going through a traumatic experience right now, what would you say to them, or what would you say to the people who love them and support them as they're trying to figure out, how can I be of help? What can I do to help them wake up and make it through another day? Sheila, I'll start with you.
For the people who are going through it, I think that sometimes it's just really sitting with them. It's not saying anything. It's being there to listen if and when they want to talk. For the people who are caring for them, it's, the caregivers sometimes are the people who are forgotten about. So my older sister, the one who first passed away, was a caregiver for my mom. Oh. And so one of the things that I think that she appreciated about our family, it's 5 of us in the family, I had 4 brothers and sisters, was that we tried to be there for her at all times. So she was in North Carolina. And so it was like, okay, it's time for you to have a trip to Atlanta. And then other members of the family would be there for my mom, and it would just give her time away. And so she would come and stay and hang out with us in Atlanta and just, relax and enjoy life. And so it's being there for them. If you are to cook a meal for them and take it to the caregiver, they have needs. And they have things that they want, and they need space, and they need a lot. And so taking care of the caregiver is a big, huge thing that I would say that we need to do.
Yeah, that's important. Thank you for that, Sheila, because I think a lot of us forget about the caregiver because it's a lot on them as well. And typically the caregivers are not only caring for people who are going through something traumatic, but they also have their own jobs, their own families, their own lives. And so they're doing double duty in this life, and they're doing it out of the goodness and kindness of their hearts, but they need love and hugs too. So thank you for sharing that. Ray, what would you say to people who are helping those who are going through trauma, or even people, especially women of color, who are experiencing trauma right now and are really seeing no way out, and really just feeling some anxiety about what's going on in their lives?
Yeah, I'll echo what Sheila says as far as those caregivers, right? I think oftentimes we forget about the caregivers. But as far as what I would say to others, one, I'd say one of the things that I think really resonated with me is hold on, right? Just hold on. And it doesn't sound like a lot, right? But it could mean everything. Just hold on. One more day, one more hour, 1 minute, just hold on. And the other piece is with the people who are trying to rally and support you, right? Go in without expectation to those folks, right? My girlfriends that I mentioned who drove up from Atlanta,
Yes.
when they said,
Great.
"Can I come visit you?" I was like, I don't know if you want to. I'm bedridden. I can't really do anything. And the first thing they said to me is, "You don't have to entertain us. We just want to come there and sit with you. We're going to bring you some lunch and we'll just sit in the room with you. No entertainment, and you don't have to be happy." And I said, well, okay, come on, right? Because I think too often, especially as women, we put so much emphasis on trying to, even when we're sick, let's try to make everybody else feel better and feel okay about it.
Yes.
And for my friends to give me that grace and just say,
Yes.
we don't need anything from you. We just want to sit by your bedside. We can watch TV and just chill. And we'll bring you anything you want to eat, including a chocolate chip cookie if you want it. And I said, okay, well, I'm okay with that. I didn't put on a makeup. I didn't put pajamas. I mean, I just stayed in my pajamas. And they sat with me for a good 3 hours until they saw that I didn't have the strength to stay up anymore. And then they gracefully said, "Ray, you need to get some sleep. We're going to head back to Atlanta." And there was no other expectation, just to sit with me. And I loved that. And I think we have to be very cognizant, both as somebody who's healing, that we don't have to make everybody else happy, but for our friends, they go in without expectation of, okay, I'm going to put on this bright face for you. So yeah.
I love that. I love that because it makes room for us to just be ourselves.
Yes.
And I think we don't have enough of that. You know, we feel that even in our pain, we've got to put on this mask of cheerfulness and strength to make others feel better. But really, we just need space to be ourselves.
Mhm.
So in the last few minutes that we have, let's talk about what lies ahead. There's that road that keeps on going, right? And we don't know where that road is going, but there's hope for what lies ahead, whether it's tomorrow or next month or next year. And so, Sheila, what are you looking forward to? What's coming up on the horizon for you that's making you smile and feel excited about life?
My grandson is downstairs.
Oh, like, as soon as I get out of here, I'm going down, I'm giving him a hug.
Oh, goodness. I'm excited about I'm excited about life. I'm excited about enjoying my sister, who is now starting to travel a little bit after she successfully had her transplant. And she has the body of a 16-year-old. She's just gorgeous.
Awesome.
She's just full of life and
Yes.
so loved by everyone and just giving love everywhere. And excuse me. So I'm looking forward to traveling with her now.
Okay.
And just, living life to the fullest. Life is short, guys.
Yes, it is.
Life is interesting. Life is, it makes you live in the moment. I think that the one of the biggest things right now is, Sheila, how do you live in the moment? How do you give it your all in the moment? And I'm practicing that in life now.
That's good.
And I'm being present in the moment with the people that are with me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just the next moment in life.
I love that. That's great. Ray, what about you?
Yes, similar to Sheila, it's just being excited about life. I'm starting to put the outline together for a book just about kind of this health journey and just hoping to just provide support for other folks who are going through stuff. And then ultimately, I think, so about a month and a half ago, I got the news that I am officially in remission. And
Yeah.
so we are now starting that 2-year
Oh.
countdown to staying in remission so I can start coming off all this medication. And so I'm really looking forward to each step along the way of that, graduating from physical therapy, all that good
Yes.
stuff. So it's all about taking those baby steps and being very happy for each baby step that comes.
I love that. I love the whole baby step thing, because a lot of times we think that progress means that, you know, we've overcome it or we've moved so far, but every day is progress. And it's just those baby steps, and it's just seeing that we're able to get through another day, and that we're here, we're alive, and we're, Sheila, as you said, in this moment. We have about a couple of minutes, and so I just want to take a minute to, Sheila and Ray, you both talked about caregivers. And so I just want to give a shout out to my sister Marvina, who is participating, I think today, in the Autism Walk Run in North Carolina. She has a son, Devin, who has special needs. And, you know, it takes a lot for parents to be able to raise children with special needs and to also take care of themselves, especially children where you don't know what the outcome is going to be for them, that they may never really be able to be on their own and independent. So I just want to say, for everybody who's participating in that walk run today, keep going, keep running that race for these young children, these young adults. They need you, and the parents need you. They need your support. So shout out to all of the caregivers out there who are taking care of their autistic children and young adults. And please, if you can, continue to support any kind of autism support for families. I think it's very much needed. Ray, anybody or any institution that you want to do a shout out for concerning what you went through with your health challenge?
For sure. I would like to shout out all my friends who have supported me in one way or the other. Family who has supported me, whether they're sending positive text message or just anything, especially my husband and my mother, who really took the journey with me and just stuck by my side the whole time. So I would just like to shout out those people. And that's really all. Yeah.
Love it. And Sheila?
I'd like to shout out to my husband. Just a godsend, just a pillar of strength, who would let me know it's okay to cry. And it would let me know, Sheila, you don't fully realize all that you've been through, but you've been through a lot. And just there for me. And I'm just so grateful for that. To the elders in my life, my family back in North Carolina, to like Ray said, just friends and family that just were there in so many ways. I'm grateful. I'm just grateful for the community that I have and my girls. God is just so good. And yeah.
Well, thank you both again. I so appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing your stories, for being so authentic. And thank you too for, as Black women, being willing to be vulnerable. You know, so many times, like I said before, we live in our strength, but we're not strong all the time, and we need to allow ourselves to let others in to support us and lift us up. It's been a great day today. It is beautiful outside, and even though I can't be in North Carolina to do the Autism Run Walk, I'm going to head out, change my clothes, and do a 5K in support. So as always, I'm going to end it with "Gotta Run."